Well, once again, good morning and happy Easter. Man, it's nice to be able to say that, isn't it? I'm so glad that you're here. How you doing? First half of the alphabet people? Okay, yeah. And my people, second half of the alphabet people? Okay, all right. No, sorry, guys, I was just born that way, all right? It's just how it is. Man, thank you for all your flexibility. Shout out to the folks that are in our cafe experience. Can we hear you over there? We cannot hear you, but we know you're there and we love you. And we're so excited to be together today. Thank you for just being flexible and doing everything that it takes to, in the world we live in today, to get to do this. Praise God. And if you're brand new to Cornerstone, so glad you're here. Welcome. Welcome to Easter at Cornerstone. Every year we get to do this, except for last year, and we get to celebrate what we do today as a church, that Jesus is risen. It's a big message that we send, but for a lot of people, Easter has absolutely nothing to do with church. It has to do with one thing: sugar. For a lot of people, it has to do with sugar. And I have deducted over the years that while there are lots of different Easter candies and Easter goodies that we get to celebrate during this time of year, then there are really two groups of people in the world. There are the non-chocolate lovers and the chocolate lovers. That's really what it comes down to at Easter. And you may say that you can split that hair, but I'm saying I think it pretty much comes down to that. And they may look the same. When you look at somebody, you can't tell which one they are. But when you get to know them a little better, they're quite different. Right? Now, non-chocolate lovers, at Easter time, if you're one of those people, where are you at, non-chocolate lovers? Any of you here? Okay, all 7 of you are really excited today. Maybe you're a non-chocolate lover and you're a jelly bean kind of person. All right, except for these nasty licorice ones. Nobody eats those. We got the jelly beans, or maybe you're the kind of Easter non-chocolate candy person that enjoys these little delicious. Before tweets were peeps. And you just get excited. You can just taste that marshmallowy goodness touching your tongue, shooting flavor through your entire body. I'll just set these right here for whoever wants them later. Okay. Listen, that's great. And if that's you, you'd be happy. If you're a non-chocolate person, you're like Cadbury, Hershey's, you guys can go fall off in a cliff. It doesn't matter. No big deal. You don't need them. And I can assure you, chocolate people don't understand you. All right? Chocolate lovers, where are you at? Okay. We rule the world. I just realized. They're everywhere, right? I mean, you look forward to Easter because you know that the most popular delicious treats on the planet come out at Easter time. Cadbury eggs. I know, if you don't like those, don't judge. It just works for me, okay? Or the most popular chocolate dessert, or sometimes you eat them for breakfast, so they're, breakfast, is, anybody had cake candy already today? Oh, Reese's chocolate eggs. Anybody have one of these already today? A lot more people than I expected have already had those today, all right? Reese's chocolate eggs, they really are the best. And when you think about it, you're like, why do they not have these all year long? They're only out for like 3 weeks, but you kind of understand because we can't handle this much heaven all year long. We couldn't do it. We couldn't handle it. And you don't care if the jelly beans get hard and crusty and throw those things away. Just give me my Reese's chocolate. Oh no. Oh, I would share, but COVID, so I can't. I got one more. Happy birthday. Okay. Last service, you get all the treats. I'm not judging the non-chocolate people. I'm seriously not. But Jesus will. And so there's going to be a day of reckoning. No. When I was a kid, though, I would go straight for my basket, and I'm pushing through that nasty plastic, whatever that is, and plastic hay stuff, and getting past the jelly beans. Like, they don't need where's the chocolate egg? And I don't know what it is for you, whatever it is. I wish you happy, delicious treats for Easter, whatever it is you hope for, all right? But the reality, of course, is it doesn't matter what you hope for candy. It doesn't actually matter for life. There are so many bigger things that matter. And if you think about where life is for so many people right now, I don't know about you, I've talked to a lot of people in this past year that have found themselves struggling to hold on to something that has become more and more evasive, harder and harder to find. It's a 4-letter word, and that word is hope. Hope. It's hard to find hope. People have told me they've lost hope in the government. Things have changed so much, they don't know if they can trust anybody. They've lost hope in the news. Pretty much most of it's not true. Depending on what station you're watching, you believe the other one's wrong. People are losing hope in humanity. What's wrong with people? They're not what they once were. We're losing hope in so many ways. We've lost hope. So many people in their future because of layoffs or limitations in their income. Some people have lost hope that in their own lives, that the change they'd hoped for and longed for is not going to come. The addiction's never going to get better. The marriage that was on the rocks is now on the ropes, and they're not sure it's ever going to come back around. Hope is slipping away. So other people have even lost hope in their faith or in the church. That time away and all this distance with COVID has just made it kind of go, I don't even know if it really is all it's supposed to be. I don't really know anymore. Maybe you can relate. Has hope evaded you a bit this year? So here's the deal, friends. Easter isn't about candy. Easter is about hope. Hope. That's why we have Easter, is because of hope. The great message of Easter is a message of hope. It is the audacious claim that at the very heart of the Christian message, at the very heart of the Christian faith, is that Jesus Christ died and rose again, the resurrection. That is the heart of the Christian faith. Contrary to what you may have heard or seen or what somebody told you, Christian faith is not based on a list of do's and don'ts and whether or not you measure up and whether God's going to shine his favor on you. You only get that because of the resurrection. It is not based on that. It is based on a historical event, specifically this one event that in the history of the world, the resurrection of Jesus happened. That for Christians, Easter is a celebration because the empty tomb means that Jesus conquered death and he has conquered the hopelessness of our lives. It's a message of hope. In the Gospel of Luke, in the Bible, we have these four Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, that describe the life of Jesus. And so if you have a Bible, I'd love for you to flip to Luke chapter 24. If you don't, I have a screen for you to use. Luke chapter 24. The Gospel of Luke tells a story about these two guys who had lost hope. It's Easter Sunday, the first Easter Sunday, and these two guys, they knew that Jesus lived and that he died and that he was buried, but now he has risen again, but they haven't heard yet. And in Luke 24, these guys had believed Jesus, they had followed Jesus, they had put their hope in Jesus, they believed everything Jesus had said to be true. They saw him live, they saw him do miracles, and then they saw him die. And when he died, it just obliterated their hope, gone. Just took it away. Maybe you can relate. Maybe you become discouraged, perhaps, or maybe it's a slow fade in your life, and over time you just kind of lose hope that God really is all he says that he is, or maybe that God really is present in your life, and some version of that is bound to happen to all of us from one time or another because hope is evasive. Check out the story in Luke 24, beginning in verse 13. Luke 24:13, that same day, Easter Sunday, number one, two of Jesus' followers were walking to the village of Emmaus, 7 miles from Jerusalem. And as they walked along, they were talking about everything that had happened. And as they talked and discussed these things, Jesus himself suddenly came and began walking with them. But God kept them from recognizing him. And he asked them, "What are you discussing so intently as you walk?" And they stopped short, sadness written across their faces. Can you see it? You know that just look of like something's not good. They're just down. Notice they're walking away from Jerusalem. That's symbolic. They went into Jerusalem with great hope. They went into Jerusalem knowing that Jesus was coming. They welcomed Jesus into Jerusalem. They waved palm branches. People met him at the gate and said, "Hosanna, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord." Jesus is coming to the city. Jesus is coming. We can feel it. It's about time for Jesus to do his thing. We know Jesus is going to show up and things are going to be different. They just knew it. They knew that Jesus was ready to do something powerful, to overthrow the oppressive Romans, and he was coming to town. But it all came to a screeching halt when Jesus was crucified. Game over. And the great hope that they had died with Jesus that day. But this is incredible, isn't it, this story? That on the biggest day in his life, in fact, on the biggest day arguably in the history of the world, Jesus chose to spend a few minutes with these two random guys. And he walked with them on their journey. The text says that they discussed things. Literally, it says that they threw things back and forth. In other words, they're debating. They're struggling through the realities of what they're living in. They're talking with Jesus, ironically, about Jesus. And that's how Jesus is, friends. He always meets us right where we are and walks with us. He not only had the answers, he is the answer. He chose to enter in relationship with them starting on the road that they were on that day. In fact, look at verse 18 as the text continues. One of them, Cleopas, replied, listen to what he says. You must be the only person in Jerusalem who hasn't heard about all the things that have happened there in the last few days. Do you sense a little sarcasm? Like, are you seriously asking that question? And Jesus goes a little further. What things? The things that happened to Jesus, the man from Nazareth, they said. He was a prophet who did powerful miracles. He was a mighty teacher in the eyes of God and all the people. But our leading priests and other religious leaders handed him over to be condemned to death, and they crucified him. We had hoped. We had hoped he was the Messiah who would come to rescue Israel. This all happened 3 days ago. The phrase is heavy, isn't it? We had hoped. We had hoped. It's not like the hope never existed. The hope was there, but it had slipped away. What they thought brought hope had fallen apart. It led them down a terrible path to a terrible place with nowhere to go. And now they're 3 days into this mini depression and they could not see a way out. They could not see how this was ever going to change. Jesus was dead. And that's how hopelessness is, isn't it? Hopelessness always feels like a dead end. If you've ever been in a place where you're like, I don't know, I feel like I've just run into hopelessness in my life, it's hard to ever see something on the other side. It is so hard to see past hopelessness. It just seems like there's no way forward. I can't ever pick myself back up. I'm never going to be what I was. The relationship can never get back to that place. I'm never going to have the strength again. It's never going to be new again. And for them, it looked like Jesus was the answer. He was the Messiah, right? I mean, everything seemed to add up. They looked at his life. I mean, Jesus was there to now bring a victory. But that was 3 days ago. Before that, everybody could feel it. I mean, he spoke with such authority and power. Even the teachers of the law would listen to Jesus. But that all ended 3 days ago. He had power, even power to perform miracles, raise Lazarus from the dead, heal people who were sick. All of these years he's been doing this, and it stopped dead 3 days ago. And maybe you've been there. Maybe you've been there. You felt like you were on the right track. Things were coming together in your life. It seemed like maybe there were some things coming together, and then for whatever reason, hope just got pulled out from under you. You can imagine them in the text sort of rolling their eyes at Jesus when he says, what are you guys talking about? What things? And they're like, are you serious? You are the only person in the entire city who doesn't know. Do you not check your notifications on your phone? Stuff happened. Important stuff. We used to believe. We used to have joy when we talked about Jesus. We used to think he was the answer, but then he got arrested. But even when he got arrested, we didn't lose hope because we know how he is. We know that Jesus has the ability. We thought maybe he was going to get locked up, put in shackles, and that's a dramatic exit, right? Where he's shackled up and he can just tear through the shackles. Maybe he uses the chain to whip all the soldiers and take over Rome. We didn't lose hope when he got arrested. But then he got convicted. And as soon as he got convicted, they started beating him and they started mocking him. And they marched him up that hill to where they had a cross ready. And in humiliation, they laid down Jesus and they nailed him to a Roman cross and they raised him up for crucifixion, the most humiliating, painful death, the most embarrassing conclusion to this thing we had hoped for. We had hoped that he was the true answer. But all of it was a farce. We stuck with him to the very end, but now he's dead. That was 3 days ago. And as they watched the last little bit of life slip away out of Jesus on the cross, their hope slipped away with it. I got to think Jesus spoke for them and really for us when he was hanging on the cross that day. And he shouted out, my God, why have you forsaken me? His hearers would know exactly what he was referencing. He's quoting Psalm 22. It's a messianic psalm that talks about the Messiah. He's connecting the history with the present and the future, and also asking God, where are you? This distance feels so real. And maybe you didn't use those exact words in your life, but maybe you've been in that spot before. Or you said things like, God, where are you? Really? Are you really with me? Is this ever going to end? Are things ever going to get better? Are you ever going to show yourself in a way that I really think I can see you or experience you? Maybe you felt that kind of way. Can you sense the hopelessness in the story of these two guys? It feels like a dead end, and that is the incredible thing of losing hope when you have Jesus. He's always one step ahead and always upstream from where we are today. He's always moving more. Even as they spoke, one of them remembered a little glimmer of hope in the story, and as he's telling Jesus about Jesus, he says this, he recalled that little glimmer of hope a little bit further down. In verse 22, he says, then some women from our group and his followers were at his tomb early this morning, and they came back with an amazing report. They said his body was missing, and they had seen angels who told them, Jesus is alive. Some of our men ran out to see, and sure enough, his body was gone, just as the women had said. Then Jesus said to them, you foolish people, you find it so hard to believe all that the prophets wrote in the scriptures. Wasn't it clearly predicted that the Messiah would have to suffer all these things before entering his glory? And then Jesus took them through the writings of Moses and all the prophets, explaining from all the scriptures the things concerning himself. Remember for a minute, resurrection was a pretty new concept. People weren't getting resurrected all the time. It wasn't exactly a common thing. And even though he told them it was going to happen, it was hard for them to believe. They had not embraced the truth. After all, death is death, right? Once somebody dies, it's game over. And in Luke 24, just a few verses before, we had already seen that the women went to the tomb and came back and were like, guys, you're not going to believe this. He's not there. Like the guy who's dead and nobody could get in to get him, he's gone. And they dismissed it. They're like, that's too unbelievable. They just dismissed it completely. Friends, please know that the message of the early church in that day, all the way up to the message of the gospel today, is really, really, really simple. And it's this simple state. The tomb is empty. Jesus is not dead. He rose from the grave. Like no matter what you're struggling with today, no matter what causes you a hang up with God, or no matter how far from walking with Jesus you feel like you are today, please know that the message is really simple. He rose from the grave. He really did rise from the dead, and it changes everything. Everything about hope can change because of this. Hope always rises with the one who can bring death to life. If he can conquer death, he can conquer our hopelessness. He can conquer our shortcomings. He can conquer our failures. Hope always rises with the one who can conquer death, the one who died to pay our penalties, but refused to stay dead. He's not staying there very long. He is here today, and wherever you are today on your journey, on your road, he's right there with you. Just like he was with those two men on the road to Emmaus. He's walking with you today. He went on to show them how it all goes together, and from the beginning of time all the way through the entire history of the Bible and the beginning of time, how God had prepared for this moment on this day, the victory that nobody really saw coming, even though he told them, and the eternal hope that would be revealed in Jesus. In fact, look what he says as we finish up in verse 28. By this time, they were nearing Emmaus and the end of their journey, and Jesus acted as if he were going on, but they begged him, stay the night with us since it's getting late. So he went home with them. And as they sat down to eat, catch this, as they sat down to eat, he took the bread and he blessed it. And then he broke it and gave it to them. And suddenly their eyes were opened and they recognized him. And at that moment, he disappeared. They said to each other, didn't our hearts burn within us as he talked with us on the road and explained the scriptures to us? And within the hour, they were on their way back to Jerusalem. They had found the 11 disciples and the others who had gathered with them, who said, "The Lord really has risen." He appeared to Peter. One commentator points out that when Jesus sits down to eat with them, that customarily in the first century, it would always be the host who breaks the bread. I mean, you would never have somebody else come into your house and be the ones to distribute the food. It would always be the host's job in first century, the Middle East in the first century. So for Jesus to take the bread and to bless it and to break it was very countercultural. And it was in that moment that it clicked. Oh my goodness, that's Jesus. And Cleopas is going, I wouldn't mean to be that sarcastic. When I was like, have you heard? Like, I didn't mean it like that. We don't know if it's because of the breaking of the bread thing that maybe their eyes were open. We know that just a few nights before, Jesus is in the upper room with the disciples. He breaks bread and says things like, "This is my body given for you." Probably not a connection there, because these guys wouldn't have been in the upper room. These weren't two of the 12 disciples. But this was the moment where God revealed it. Now they could see him, the one who previously broke bread back in John chapter 6, who said, "I am the bread of life." Yeah, you're always going to need another meal, but you need me in life. I am the one who is life-giving to you. He opened their eyes. And they were left with the conclusion that thousands upon hundreds of thousands of millions of people have come to in the last 2,000 years. The reality that Jesus really did rise from the dead. That he really did. It wasn't something that they had believed before. They had hoped. And they say, didn't our hearts burn within us? Wasn't there something stirring? Wasn't there even something happening even before we could see him? Even before we knew that he was with us? Wasn't something going on in us that we just kind of knew that maybe something was going to happen? Now, we never learned the name of the other guy. These two guys go down in history basically as the two guys on the road to Emmaus. Not real famous. Most of you couldn't have known what Cleopas' name was, right? We don't have like Cleopas tattoos or anything. You don't name your kid Cleopas. You name your kid Peter, James, John, and all those guys. But don't you wish you knew what happened next in Cleopas' life and the other guy? I mean, I wish we had what happens next, because in that moment, they went from these guys whose faces are sad and everything is down, they're walking away from Jerusalem. They went in that moment from hopeless to hopeful instantaneously. They went from discouraged to fully encouraged in a moment. They went from not knowing where to go, walking out of Jerusalem on a road to Emmaus with nothing in front of them, to turning around and walking right back into the city to get back to work with the disciples, because one reason: Jesus is alive. He's alive. And I wonder, when you think about your journey today, what does that change for you? What does it change that Jesus is alive? Maybe you're in a place today on your road where church is new to you and you're just at the beginning stages of trying to understand faith. You have a lot of questions. You probably have more questions than you do answers, and it can be frustrating and it can be difficult. You're just not sure yet. And my encouragement to you today is this: just be really real with God. Just say to God something like, "God, I don't even know if you're really out there. I don't know if you really hear me. But I realize that I am wrestling today the most serious questions in the world. I'm going to get a Bible, and I'm going to start going to church, and I'm going to start getting my questions answered, and I'm going to take very seriously this very serious question: what about the risen Savior? What about that? Because if it's real, it changes everything." And if that's where you are today, it's a really important journey for you to be on. You can't fully see him. People are telling you he's nearby, but your eyes have not yet been open to see him in your life. Friends, know that Jesus is with you. He is. He is with you. He's right there. He hears your prayers. He wants to walk with you every day. He wants to. Maybe you're in a place today where you come in here today like so many people, part of our church, who are just going, "Easter, so good to be here for Easter." Maybe you're in a place where your heart is filled with joy and gratitude, and when you think about the empty tomb, it just gives you hope and fulfillment. And knowing that Jesus is alive and you get to walk with him every day. Man, I had one person today who came out and she just said, 4 years ago, I had no idea how important the empty tomb was. Praise Jesus that he is alive. Her life transformed because of the reality. And if you're in that place today, I just celebrate with you. Thank you, God, that we get to celebrate Easter together and worship and lift him up. Because it's important for us to remember that he's with us on that journey too. And we just can't wait to see what God's doing on the next step of the journey and the one after that and the one after that. How is God going to grow me? How is God going to use me? How is God going to shape me forward? That's what we get to look forward to. If that's where you are today, praise God. But maybe you're not there. Maybe you're here today and you have some heavy stuff that you carried in here today, and you can put on the face, and praise God, you get to put on the mask because you don't really want to show the weight of what you're carrying. You're carrying disappointment, or you're carrying hopelessness. Maybe you're carrying fear in here, and it is heavy. Man, it's heavy. And I think Jesus' message for you today, if that's where you are, is this: I am with you. I'm with you. I want you to fully give it over to me. Give me your fear. Give me your disappointment. Give me your discouragement and hopelessness. I understand pain. I understand loneliness. I understand even distance from God. I was there. I was on the cross and I experienced the pain, and I didn't stay on the cross because I am the author of life. And I'm ready to bring hope back into your hopeless heart. In a moment, there can be hope. And maybe you're like these two guys today, where your eyes are being opened and you're saying, man, the Lord really has risen. He really has. And maybe you're ready to accept him as Lord today. Maybe today is what better day in the calendar year to give your life to Jesus than Easter. What a great day to do that, to celebrate what God is doing, to be baptized into Christ. And if that's where you are today, we're going to give you an opportunity to talk with a prayer partner in a minute. When we have communion time, we're going to show a music video of our team, incredible song we're going to sing. And you're going to just have an opportunity to come and talk with one of our prayer partners at that time, to just share with them what God is doing in your life. And maybe today is when you need that change. I love this quote from Jesus. The risen Savior, he's already conquered death in this time. In Revelation chapter 21, verse 5. It's a short little verse. The first half of the verse says, he who is seated on the throne, Jesus says, behold, I am making all things new. That's a short little quote, but isn't that an incredible promise? You can believe a guy that conquered death. Even when we feel like we're at the end of our rope, or we can't be helped anymore, or there's literally no help left in our lives for whatever reason, we cannot see past it. He looks right into your situation and says, behold, behold. Or take a hard look at this. There is something you must know. Behold, I am making all things new. All things. There is new life and new hope beneath the junk and on the other side of hopelessness. And I'm ready to fill you with a purpose and a hope and a future today. Does everything just go away and it gets easy when we accept Jesus? No, that's not how it works. Life is really hard. But the resurrection, friends, is a promise that Jesus gets the final word. In this life or the next, he makes all things new in us. And here is the invitation that he gives each and every one of us. It's real simple. The invitation is, will you join me? Will you join me? Maybe you're here today because somebody else said to you, will you join me? Will you come with me to church on Easter? Will you join me? Just come with me. Maybe you were a person who invited somebody else. You put up a social media frame that said, join me at Cornerstone. Maybe you talked to a bunch of people, join me. That's awesome. I'm so glad you're here. But way before that conversation, way before any of us even thought about it, way before we got to the point where we're at in our lives, Jesus was already ahead of us, preparing the way, and his invitation that says, will you join me? Will you join me? Walk with me, get to know me, put your trust in me, believe that I really have conquered death and the grave, and that means I can conquer any of the hopeless things in your life today, any of them. Any of them can be conquered. Any of them can find hope in Jesus no matter the outcome. Would you join me, he says, with his arms open wide. Join me. And that is his invitation to every one of us today. Let's pray. God, thank you that today, perhaps of all days, we get to reflect and pause and celebrate with people around the globe who are able to say, hallelujah, he is risen. He's risen from the grave, and he conquers the hopelessness that we face so often in our lives. And we praise you for it today, God. In Jesus' name.